Good evening, everyone. So today you and I are going to talk about productivity and code reviews and testing. Yes, we will. So let's get into it. Now, let's get some context. Because context is great. That means that we get meaning to the gibberish that I blabber on this channel of mine. So here we are. Today we had a discussion at work about our process for delivering stories. And for the juniors out there, you may not know this, but in general, when you work, you have different phases that you go through as you're shipping a feature. Now, you may think that the most amount of time you spend within software is actually coding and writing code, and sometimes it is, but for the most part you spend more time testing and verifying and reading other people's code and making sure that stuff works and solving bugs or virtually things of that nature, right? And the thing is that there is this unspoken, I don't know, it's not for all companies, but it's very common. It's very, very common. There's this unspoken resistance and hesitance from developers in general to do code reviews and do manual testing and assist in manual testing and so forth. Partly it's, for most people, it's because it's boring, and there's one other factor that plays in here, which is what I'm going to talk to you about. There's a sensation of being unproductive, or that you could be doing something more valuable. And this is something that I have been trying to kind of teach or to promote to my team at my job, because they are very skilled developers, and we're trying to fight this notion that code reviews and doing a code review on behalf of one of your colleagues, or doing testing to test somebody else's story, because the rule is, and these are fairly good rules to have, you start by picking a story, you start working, and then you push a code commit of some sort, and then you set up a merge request, basically, which is, for the units out there, that's just you saying that, hey, I made some changes to the code base, these are my changes, and then you put up a code review, which is basically you saying to somebody else, could you look at this and give me some feedback on it? Is this good code? Is there something I need to change about it? This is why I urge you to very quickly if you have any emotional attachment to your code, or rather, let's call it unhealthy attachment, such as that you're proud of the code and you get defensive, anything like that, throw that out of the window immediately. You are part of a team. And if you are going to be an effective part of a software development team, you need to be able to take criticism, constructive criticism, and abide by the team rules. You give feedback, you take feedback, and you adjust accordingly. That's what you do. You are not an island. You are part of a team. Remember that. So, the issue is that when you are working and somebody asks you to come and help them with their code review, a lot of people will have this idea that they kind of, okay, but I really want to finish my own work instead of helping out my colleague and doing that code review, because code review is just reading, right? And it's just basically checking that things look okay and look nice, right? And testing, it's also something that you don't really want to do, because it also doesn't feel all that productive. But I'm here to tell you that there's another perspective to these things, because what usually happens is, as I said earlier, there's phases. You start by getting a story, building it, pushing it to code review, testing it, and then releasing it. So think about this. These are generally, with a few flavors, the steps that are required in order for you to actually be considered done with the thing that you're building, which means that you are at step 2, working on your story. Your colleague is either on step 3 or step 4. And the step 5, the last step, is for that person to actually be completely done with the feature. That means that they are stopped, they're blocked, they can't keep on working in theory, they have to pick some other story or something and just wait for you to have enough grace and time, or whatever you want to call it, to help them finish their story. And if you have the mindset that you are there to be productive as an individual, yes, working on your story is going to be the way to go. But if everybody in your team has that mindset that code reviews and testing somebody else's stuff isn't as important as doing your own work, then nobody will be able to finish any stories, and the company and the team as a whole will suffer. Because trust me, if you're not helping your colleagues with their code reviews and their testing, why would they help you? So the way to mitigate this, which is what these things take time, because I've found that it's very to a great deal of frustration on my part, I've found that it's very tricky, depending on the context, to convince people that things that they are that they don't value all that much, but has been fairly proven. It's not that I'm not grabbing this out of thin air. I've seen these processes a few times, and I have seen them at companies which are leaps and bounds ahead of this company in terms of office processes and productivity and delivering value and so forth. But every company finds its own way, especially the young companies. It's kind of trial and error. You kind of it's almost like having children. You have to let them fuck up on their own so that they realize the wisdom in your words. Now, I'm not saying that I know everything, but in these specific things, I have a little bit of know-how, and it's not from my own doing. It's actually thanks to my old boss at Ticketmaster, or my team leader, who he was a genius of office culture and productivity and team management. He's actually working at one of the companies here in Gothenburg now. Genius guy. And Victor, if you're watching this, you are a genius. I'm sorry I didn't say it to you more than I did. Anywho, the thing is that what you want to work on is that you want to remove this perception that something's more valuable than the other, and just look at things as a delivery system, which means that every part is equally important, because you can't actually deliver the thing until everything is done. Which means that if you think about it from the team perspective, it's actually more beneficial for the team if you prioritize helping somebody with their stuff, doing the testing and the code reviews, before you start working yourself. Because if you do, then you will ship things quicker. Because if you go the other way around, the thing is going to sit there the story is going to sit there for a very long time until it can actually be released. And having long-lived branches is a bad thing, because odds are that you're going to have all kinds of conflicts, that sort of thing. So ideally, if you're working in a Kanban fashion, which is usually, it's a very common way of working, is that you always, whenever you sit down and you start working, you always look at the things that are closest to being released, and and you ask yourself, is there anything I can do to help speed this along before I start doing my own work? If everybody has that mindset, you will most likely find that you're actually much more productive as a team, and you will actually ship things much quicker. That's at least what I've found. And yeah, it's very fun, and I'm very happy to see that this team that I'm part of now, that's only really a few months old, is getting very quickly to the same level of professionalism that I enjoyed in that type of environment that I enjoyed working in at a much, much larger company with a lot more maturity. So it's fun to see something evolve in that fashion. And to end on a positive note, just remember that think about the team before you think about yourself. Have a great day.